I think time is the most important thing that humans have. It's something, doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how poor you are, it's something that you can't make more of. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in this area, did a lot of things that I can't say on video that were fun. So this lake, it was named after my grandfather, actually. He used to help all the kids in the area learn to fish. He was a big fisherman, so he would come across here and all summer long in the spring teach kids how to, properly fish, catch and release. They said by like 3 o'clock, it's supposed to start snowing. Good. The reason I collect watches is, honestly, it's art that you can wear. It's functional, it has a purpose. You can wear your watch. It's something that tells the time. For somebody like me, I legitimately use my watch all the time. Keep track of client time, when I'm doing billing. To me, looking at your time through an iPhone or an iWatch or just nonchalantly some, plastic thing that's disposable and it's just going to be thrown away. I just think it's a lack of respect to time. Do I feel you need to spend $1 million? No, but I feel like as a person, knowing how important time is, it should be seen through something that's important, something that you can pass down to your kids, something that you can pass down to grandkids, something that somebody might get in their hands 50 years from now that you'll never know. It's an amazing thing how these things can have a story that goes on for generations or years that may not even have anything to do with you. And you can't get that from an iPhone. You can't get that from an iWatch. That type of stuff is a throwaway commodity in a throwaway society. And it's sad to me how we are now as people. We don't value things like that anymore. We have no problem just being so disposable of everything. And there's something beautiful about having things still that are meant to last, that are meant to be meaningful and not just be thrown away. It's something that can be repaired. It's something that can be modified. It can be fixed. So I got the case here. And I've been collecting watches for a long time. I bought my first watch when I was about 10 years old. And I went into a jewelry store here in town where I live. So my first watch I bought was when I was about 10 years old. And there's a local jewelry store which is still open in my town. And I remember walking in wanting to buy a watch. And I saw this Bulova, you see it's like a little diver type this is the 90s, so two-tone was all the rage. And I remember I saved up, did yard work around town, anything I had to do, mowed yards, gutters, any of that kind of stuff. And I saved up enough money, and I went in and I bought this. And I literally still have it. It's a quartz watch, at the time, of course, when you're 10, you don't understand these things as deeply. But, I think it's important if you're a watch collector. It's kind of neat if you can still have the first watch you ever bought. And my daughter, she wears it now. But yeah, this is the first watch that I ever bought. Still have the bracelet and everything that goes with it. But yeah, so I've always enjoyed watches. I've been blessed that I've worked a lot. I kind of had to when I was a kid. I didn't really have a choice. So I was able to buy things that I liked, and one of the things that I always enjoyed more than anything was buying watches. When you first start out collecting, you don't really know. Yeah. I got some old Oakley quartz watches still that I have that I thought were the coolest thing in the world. They're outrageous, now in retrospect. I got a lot of Seikos, of course, like most people when they start collecting. A lot of those, I don't have anymore. I either gave them away or, sold them for other pieces. But, I really enjoy collecting. The thing I like about collecting for myself, I don't purposefully not follow the herd. It's not like a thing. It's not very much of a thing if you're doing something on purpose. But I tend to just naturally not follow the herd per se. Like I'm not against what we would call hype pieces by any means, but and there's some that I would buy. But in general, I like what I like. I just kind of collect things that I find to be, to speak to me for whatever reason it is. And, my collection, I don't per se have a checkbox, but I like to try to build something that's balanced. I try to cover the gambit, and kind of naturally, I don't fit into one mold. I kind of like all these different things. So that's kind of what my collection has developed into over the years, what you see in front of you. One of my watches that I wear the most, which most people, obviously that are watch collectors, they definitely know it and have at least probably owned it once or twice in their lifetime, is the Rolex Sub 116610. This thing I've worn since 2009, I think. It's pretty well beaten up. I've never had it serviced still to this day. It's taken a pretty good beating. I mean, I've worn this throughout many moments in life. That daughter being born, COVID. This was the watch that I wore most of the days during that hellacious time. The reason I like this watch is not only is it iconic, but it's just a beast. The thing can take an absolute beating. It's been time and tested. I mean, I got a good nick in the crystal, almost broke off the Cyclops once. I mean, this thing, it's very well used and abused, as watches should be. Obviously some watches, dress watches, you're not going to do certain things in, but with a Rolex Sub, I mean, there's really nothing that you can't do in this watch in the world. When you think of a watch, I mean, I think most people that aren't watch people, they think about this watch. I like the date because what I do for a living, I need to know the date. I understand some people like without it because of better balance, but I like the date function. Most of my watches have date function because I use the date function, because I use it as a tool. I didn't really carry a cell phone with me often. It's a little old school, but I hate the fact that people can get hold of you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I used my watch for literally the purpose of keeping time and knowing what date it was. If there's a watch that I probably wouldn't ever want to part with in my collection, it would definitely be this. This was one of my first main quote-unquote real, watches that I ever bought. If I ever get it serviced, I'm not going to have it polished or anything like that, for sure. But that's the Rolex Sub. So that's a watch that is probably my oldest. I got another Rolex, speaking in pairs, because I kind of weirdly, not purposely, have a lot of pairs here. Another watch that I think is just awesome is the Rolex Oyster quartz. This one's from 1978. It's in very good condition, wasn't ever polished. It's got the white gold fluted bezel, it's got the date function. What I like about it is, it fits extremely well. It's extremely comfortable. It's a 35.8 millimeter, but it wears like it's a 38, 39 millimeter watch because of the case design. I'm a sucker for that 70s style case design. There's a lot of watches in my collection that are of that size or of that profile. It's cool because it's a quartz. I like to have, at least one in my collection that's meaningful. And to me, when you think of Rolex and you think about a brand that goes at the speed of an iceberg, this is the one time kind of that they didn't. And the thing I like about this watch more than anything, if you're in a room that's quiet, you can hear this thing from across the room. I mean, that tick, like every time it hits, it's like a slam. I mean, you can hear it. I think that's awesome. Great watch. I think it's nice to have a quartz watch in your collection. This is the one that I chose, the Rolex Oyster quartz. Speaking of quartz and kind of one or iconic watches, this is the Grand Seiko SBGA 211. This is the Snowflake. When I think of Grand Seiko, I think of the Snowflake. The sweeping hand movement is absolutely awesome in it. The technology that went into this. Again, I kind of collect watches, not to sound like a hippie liberal, because I'm not, but I do collect them for, I don't want to say inspiration, but you know, the man that developed this watch, I mean, he failed for decades and hundreds of times failing, trying to make this movement come to light, the spring drive movement. And the fact that the guy never gave up and kept going at this, I mean, you imagine, especially in today's culture, failing something that many times and not giving up, when in today's world people just quit things just immediately. The fact that he saw it through to the end, and that's another one to look at the history on the spring drive, you know, for people that aren't aware, you know, what it took to make this. It's amazing. The other thing I like about it, it's the iconic, you know, version of, to me, Grand Seiko. The Snowflake dial is amazing. Winter is my favorite season of the year, so I'm kind of a sucker for this. And if you look at it close, I mean, it really does look like it's a field of snow. And again, that spring drive movement, when you just see that blue hand kind of sweep across that white dial, it's pretty amazing. The workmanship on this, the polishing, there's no loom, and I'll be honest with you, you don't even need it. I mean, if there is even a small part of light in the room, I mean, it pops. All the hand polish, indices, it's an amazing watch. So this is my Grand Seiko, which again, I've had for a long time. And what's cool about the Grand Seiko too is you can swap out a lot of different bands onto it. So that's the Grand Seiko Snowflake. So another one-off, and when I say one-off, you know, I only have one Zenith in my collection. And again, in my opinion, if you're gonna own a Zenith, it should be an El Primero. I mean, that's what, to me, when you think of Zenith, they're known for. Kind of like the Oyster quartz. You know, this is that 70s style. This is the A384. This came out 50 years after. It was a 50-year anniversary edition, 2019. I bought it because I always wanted to have a Panda dial in my collection. And I will be honest with you, no offense to Rolex lovers out there, the Daytona doesn't do anything for me. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. I don't hate it. I'm not a hater on it, but for me personally, it's not, it's iconic, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't speak to me at all. This Zenith A384, I knew about it because I saw some older ones, some vintage ones, of course, but Zenith really, minus the movement upgrade, and on the original A384, you can't see the movement. It's just a solid case back. The profile of this thing is legit. I mean, it is the exact profile of the watch. In fact, I read somewhere you can even take the original ladder bracelet and it still fits into this model because it is that exact. And I like it. It fits well on me. I like that the ladder bracelet. I love that 70s style vibe. It's got a lot of, again, I'm not going to bore people with history, but historically, when you look at the El Primero movement, what it took to get here, how it survived, the story of how it was hidden away is an amazing story to watch and read about. You know, the Daytona used Zenith movements for a long time in it. A lot of other watch brands did too. So that's my Zenith, and that's my reason for that. Another, you know, one brand watch that I have, just one of them. My favorite colors are gold, black, and green. If it were up to me and I didn't handle myself, I'd probably have an all black watch collection because, and I don't know why, but I love black watches. So I really liked the Octophonissimo when it came out. I thought it was pretty amazing. Just, I mean, when you look at how thin, you know, how thin that is, it's pretty amazing. Bulgari wasn't really, I would say, in the watch community, it was more considered a fashion model, a fashion watch brand. When they got into this, you know, really went down this road with these Octophonissimos and other watches since then. I mean, this is horology. I mean, when you look at what it takes to make this watch, I mean, this is an all ceramic watch. So I bought this one. I love that it's black on black. The indices, everything is like it's hard to describe. It's like almost a chromed out black. And, you know, just like the Grand Seiko, if there's any light in the room, you can tell the time. You know, there's certain angles that you would think you can't, but you can. And you can see, I mean, it wears very well. It's very comfortable. Every piece of this essentially is ceramic.
Wow.
So the thing I like about ceramic is it doesn't scratch. So a watch like this, you know, you can have in your collection forever, and I mean, it's going to look like a mint condition watch. And you got to be careful. Of course, ceramic can shatter, and that is something that, you know, you have to be careful. But I like the design of it. I think looking back, you know, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, this is going to be considered a pretty iconic watch. They've really branched out. You know, there's a lot of steel versions of this, of course, now. There's different versions, but for me, the black on black, all ceramic, I thought was a pretty cool version of this watch to own. So this is another watch that I really enjoy and like in my collection.
It's got serious movement.
Serious movement, and you know, for a period of time there, I mean, this was the thinnest watch, that automatic watch that existed. I think it's a platinum rotor, I'm pretty sure. This is the one Bulgari that I own. You know, my understanding is, for some reason, there's some people that say that it technically wasn't, but from everything I've understood, that it always was. Another watch, again, green is my favorite color. So I never owned a Moser, and I liked them. But to me, when I look at it, it's kind of got that 70s-ish vibe to it. And again, I kind of like, I like those watches for whatever reason. The dial is amazing. You know, it's this green fume dial, kind of goes to this black smoked dial color on the edges. You know, the lume on it is pretty awesome at night. It's like baked in lume to the hands. Again, the bracelet is amazing. I mean, it's like a reptile type bracelet. I mean, it's very, very comfortable. Again, you know, 40 millimeter, extremely easy to wear on the wrist. And the reason why I respect this watch too, one, I love green, like this dark green color. Two, you know, there's a period of time here of late where everyone, obviously, in almost any business, they jump on a bandwagon. And the bandwagon was Steel Sports integrated bracelet. And, you know, a lot of it's retread. You know, it's like, oh, this is not original in any manner. You know, you look at a lot of different brands, from, you know, micro brands to well-respected brands. You know, people didn't like the Zenith that was redone, very much like the Daytona. It almost looks exactly like it. So there's nothing you can say about this that looks like anything. You know, it's completely organic. It's completely original to Moser. The bracelet is very original. And you have to respect, and again, not to knock today's world, but there's a reason why there's Ghostbusters 17 and different stuff like that. I mean, we are not capable, sadly, with all this technology we have at our fingertips, of any original thought anymore. And it's very sad to see. So whenever a brand or anybody or anything can come out with something original, you have to respect it. And to me, that Moser, again, I think will be an iconic watch years to come, just because it's a very original design, and I think it's very well done. So that's the one Moser. I have a lot of independent watches in general. I have a couple independent watches on the way to me over the next year or so. You know, we'll go to, you know, AP. This is an original design that is love or hate. So this is not the original strap. I put on something different, but this is the code 1159. Even on their website, the dial looks very, almost white. When you see it in person, this dial specifically, which is the silver dial, it's very radiant type dial, it really is a chameleon. I mean, it takes on, like right now, holding this in my hand, it appears to be, in spots, almost black. Very, very dark gray. You know, it takes on the room, you know, whatever the room is. The other thing is, the attention to detail is pretty amazing. You know, you've got white gold, you've got rose gold in the middle. So I bought this watch for a few reasons. One, I do not own in my collection a two-tone watch. And this is a two-tone watch, which I thought to be very neat. And it's AP. Not until you see the case design on the side do you notice that, oh, in fact, there's rose gold there. And it kind of, obviously the rose gold ties in with the indices, the hands on the watch itself. But yeah, I mean, that's, the attention to detail with the Code 1159 is pretty cool. It's really, the back of the movement is extremely highly decorated. I mean, there's, it's, I don't even know if the light can do it justice. This is one of those watches that you have to have in person to see it. I think when a lot of people, humans don't like change, I don't like change. I think that, when people think of AP, they think of Royal Oaks, and that's what they think of. So when they did this, it was almost blasphemy to a lot of people that they attempted to do something like this. And there are elements of this watch that are hearkening back to that. I mean, like on the middle sandwich part here, it is an octagonal shape in the middle here, which, harkens to obviously the bezel of either a Royal Oak or a Royal Oak offshore. So there is, that into it. And again, from a standpoint of business, I will tell you my opinion. I think AP wants to branch out to a bigger audience. I think that when you look at millennial-aged buyers, who are the largest consumer group now in the United States of America, they tend to like, when you look at other brands, they like this type of, I don't know, dial design, I guess you could say. And I think that they're just trying to branch out to something more target audience. Will this ever replace the Royal Oak in the collection? Do I think that? No. Do I think that eventually it will become as well respected? I think it could. I think when you look at the the design of the case, the cutouts, the detail in here, the polishing, the handwork that's in this, when you look at the crystal, which again you can look online and see the optical illusion. I also like my Royal Oak offshore that I have. And again, the reason why I got this watch, it's black on black for the most part. The yellow pops. It's known as the Bumblebee. It's carbon fiber case, which AP was one of the first watchmakers to use. It has a ceramic bezel. And if you know anything about Royal Oaks, whether it's the offshores that are steel or just the regular Royal Oaks, they scratch up pretty good. So the appeal of having a ceramic bezel and a carbon fiber case, and I've had this watch for a long time, and it's beat up. I mean, you really can't even tell though, because the carbon fiber, case kind of absorbs all the scratches and dents and dings in it. So it's probably my loudest watch. I think on a yellow strap, it's outrageous. It's cool. It's super light because it's carbon fiber. I mean, you look at it and you go, man, that thing probably weighs a ton. It is very light. So that's my Bumblebee. And then of course, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but this is the new version, the new model of the Speedy. The sandwich is awesome. Being able to see that movement of Omega is pretty impressive, and they do a very good job with it. But it's a good watch. It serves its purpose well. It's very easy to read. When you think about this watch, you think about the moon, you think about space, you think about an astronaut wearing this, you think about, the reason it got approved was partially this Hesalite, because if it breaks, it doesn't. I have it on a rubber strap. I'm a sucker for rubber, which you can probably tell in my collection. I obviously have the bracelet as well, but I got an aftermarket Horus strap. It's like latex, smooth as butter. You can wear this thing for days. Not even, you can sleep with it. It doesn't even matter. And it's a great looking watch. That's my Omega Speedmaster. All right, so another kind of couple brand that I have here is Vacheron. So this is the Vacheron Overseas 4500V black dial. I got this before the hype really hit, when the Overseas started getting the respect that, in my opinion, it deserves. The indices, the hand polishing, the amount of work that went into the Overseas. This has 150 meters water resistance. The ease of just click, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to change the strap in under, a few seconds here. The fact that you can do that so easily and then just pop it back on. When you wear the Overseas, and if you want to, you want to change and adjust, you can literally just tug. Just a quick pull. Do the other side as well. My wrist expands and contracts a lot, so I use that function a lot in this watch. I'm happy that it's got some of the respect that it should get for what it is. So that's the Overseas. Good watch. And then, of course, another iconic, when I think of Vacheron, this is the watch I think of when I think of Vacheron, is the 1921 Historiques. So this is the rose gold. I have it on a NATO strap because why not? Because it looks cool. Manual lined, I still to this day can't believe the price I got it for. I bought it secondhand. It was in bad shape. It needed a whole overhaul on it. So I sent it into Vacheron to, get redone. But watch is just, it's awesome. I actually like it more on the NATO, personally. It's kind of counterintuitive, to the watch and hypocritical to put something like that on a NATO. But for me, it works. But I had Vacheron overhaul it, and it was very affordable to do that. I got nothing against the Patrimony. I have nothing against the Calatrava, but they're just too boring for me. I mean, it's a watch. It's just, and I'm not hating on it. It's just, for a lot of people, they really like that simplicity. I think that when you see that from across the room, that means it's iconic. So speaking of iconic, so I'm going to go into a couple little pieces here that trigger some people. These are Mings. I only have two Mings. I've got the Ming here. I think it's 1709. I'm pretty sure. It came in the burgundy version or the blue dial. And I actually didn't own really. I think I had one blue dial at the time, and I thought this blue was pretty cool. I thought it's not an actual guilloche dial, but it's pretty impressive. And again, it's super comfortable to wear. It's sized appropriately. It's a solid watch. Now again, speaking of iconic, and I'm not comparing this to the 1921, so don't get me wrong. But if you see this watch from across the room, within 2 seconds, if you are a watch collector of any kind, it's a Ming watch. End of story. There's nothing to talk about. It's a Ming. You can tell from the flared lugs. You can tell from the dial. You can tell from the hands. It's a Ming. The other Ming that I have that I just got recently and took a while to get is the Ming 1705, which I got this watch because I thought it was a neat watch for Ming. It's their first watch with a date function. It's the first watch with a moon function. It's manual wind. It's highly modified. And again, as the older I'm getting, the more I like a 38 to 40 millimeter watch. It just fits comfortably. They wear well. But my point about the iconic thing is, and I'm not saying Ming is going to be Vacheron or AP. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, what brand watch this is from across the room. And when I talk about original stuff earlier, I give respect to anybody who's going to do something that's original. Whether you love it or hate it or think it's terrible, the fact that there are people still out there willing to try to do something different and think through it. The thing I respect about Ming watches, because they think through almost from a photographer's vision, there's depth and layers to these watches from different angles, different light hits it. They're not Vacheron level or anything like that, and they don't need to be. Not everything has to be that. Not everything has to be Rolex. Not everything has to be something where people know the brand to the point where you can't respect smaller watch companies trying to do something. So I respect anybody in this world for anything that they do with anything to try to do something that's unique. So those are my two Ming watches that I have in my collection. So these are two watches I have. These are a brand. They're German. manual line called Kudoke. The watchmaker is Stefan Kudoke. He's a very well respected guy. He's part of ACHI, I believe, for independent watchmakers. You know, this is the salmon dial version. I always wanted to have a salmon dial watch. I didn't find any that overly appealed to me. And then when I saw this Kudoke, and I got it secondhand, when it became available, I bought it. You can see the work in it. That's done by hand. It's great size. Yes, on the balance cock, there is the appearance of a penis that graces, you know, your eyes when you look. But the point is, it's a very nice watch. It's casual, yet can also be a dress watch. I don't know. I really enjoy them. And then, you know, when I got the Kudoke 1 and then I saw the Kudoke 2 became available in my collection. But this color blue, I really like. And it's called the Bluebird. And the reason it's called the Bluebird is it has to do with during winter time, you know, whenever you have like, you know, a lot of snow on the ground and you have a very blue day, like the, you know, no clouds in the sky, people refer to that as a Bluebird. There's a AM/PM indicator on the watch, and basically it's hand engraved sun, hand engraved moon, and while you change the time, you know, that indicator as well kind of changes with it, so it moves as the day goes, and it pops a lot in the sun too. Very appropriately sized watch. You know, it looks great. 38 millimeters, super comfortable to wear. These are my 2 German watches that I have, and he does great work. So if anybody wants to look for and they're affordable. You know, when you think about, you know, I'm not saying it's Lange, but when you look at Lange and you look at the Grossman, and you look at these watches are, you know, in the low $10,000. I don't chase. I wait. I've been doing this long enough to know I wait for my moment. Like I bought the Code 1159 for like sub 20. I waited. There was a guy I knew that had it, and I waited him out, you know, for the watch market to go down because I really liked that dial. Take your time. Think about what you're going to purchase. Don't just do gut reactions, because I've done those mistakes too, and then you regret buying it, and you know, now you got a problem on your hands. And you know, a lot of these watches, minus only a handful, you know, my Vacheron and a few other ones, they're mostly secondhand. I mean, I try to buy smart, and I try to buy pre-owned, and you know, it just comes from years of knowledge of knowing what to look for and what not to look for. So the last few watches I have here are a brand that not a lot of people know of. I really like their watches. I like the people. They're extremely nice. It's an independent watch brand called Verlin, and the 2 guys that developed it, they're from Denmark. So my first Verlin I ever bought was the Verlin Black Gold. Again, I'm a sucker for black, and I'm a sucker for gold. So you put these 2 things together, and you're going to probably have me buy it. Are they a mainstream taste? No. I don't really care. I like them. So, you know, I don't really worry about it. But this is made of titanium, and their goal with everything was to have it weigh as little as possible. So this is called the Spidolite, and the reason they say that is they tried to cut out any unneeded weight that they could. They even carved out in the bezel spaces to limit weight. The case profile, this watch, I think it's unique, and I like unique, and I like original. And these guys, Jorn Verlin, who's one of the founders, he broke his back very severely when he was skiing. He fell off of a cliff, essentially, and he didn't know the distance. So they were watch collectors, and they wanted to come up with, and the one guy, Lind, he's a very well-known designer, they wanted to come up with a watch that could serve the purpose of tracking things, whether it's diving or skiing, snowboarding. So there was an actual computer device that you would pop on top of these watches. So you had a watch at nighttime, and then you could have it be a computerized device during the daytime when you're doing some type of sports activity. So the profile, these ears here, you know, there was a purpose for them in their DNA. It used to house a computer on top. And when you would drop in for skiing or snowboarding, you could pop this baby on top, and it would keep your distance. When you were, and I have a dive version here too, 2 of them, you could keep track of your time while diving. Then, of course, what happened was very recently, later, the iWatch came out. And you know, they know it kind of defeated the purpose because at that point, you had the iWatch. But for a period of time, this was like a computerized, one of the first computerized, like per se, smartwatches that existed. And it was a hybrid thing of a real mechanical watch with that. So I just respect originality. And again, I just respect the independent type of stuff. This is another Linda Verlin. This is the Moon Tattoo, which this watch is, you know, it's unique, it's heavy, it's rose gold through and through, ceramic bezel, 300-meter water resistance. You know, these screws here on the top and bottom, they're not there just for show. You can actually unscrew, there's a, I don't have it with me, but there's a little screwdriver, you unscrew, and then you can pop in a new strap. Yep, so that's, again, and they have the, you know, the DNA element of the computer, you know, for the divers.
Beautiful.
And then my last watch of my my collection here is one more Linda Verlin, and this one is one of the most recent watches I got. This is a Linda Verlin Frogman. Now this watch is cool to me because 2 things. One, this watch was made by Linda Verlin for the Danish Special Forces, and I thought it was cool because the dial is it's very dark, silvery black, radiant type dial, and the 12, 6, and 3, these are actual blocks of superluminova. They actually cut these pieces, and this thing, during the day, you can see it light up. It's a block of superluminova that they cut and hand put into the dial. It's not paint, it's a solid block of it. So it's like, it's ridiculous at nighttime. I mean, this thing, I don't have any watch that the lume is brighter than this watch. And they did it because it's a diver, and the point was so when they're underwater, you can really see your time on the watch. It's beat up, and I kind of like it. It's neat because you can just wear it and enjoy it and not worry about it. And so this is one of my more recent pieces. But yeah, I really like the brand. You know, I like Kudoke, I like Linda Verlin. I mean, I like some of these independent people that are doing original type things that, I don't know, it brings joy to me, and it's something, you know, it's art on your wrist that you can wear. And, you know, that's my collection in full at the moment. So I appreciate that Tim was willing to come out and talk about it, and hopefully, you know, you guys seeing it have seen things that you didn't know existed, like Kudoke is not very well known, Linda Verlin's not very well known. But yeah, that is my collection. So
20 years of
30.
30 years.
Yeah, been, you know, since I bought this baby right here, almost 30 years ago. Well, 30 years ago, almost to the day. You know, I've been buying and collecting watches. But I will say, in closing, buy smart. Don't FOMO into stuff. As you can see, what's happening as of today, you know, 2022 in November, these are rough times if you FOMO'd into stuff. And if you FOMO'd into it and you love it and you're going to keep it fun, who cares? But if you FOMO'd into it thinking you were going to flip it, you got to be careful, man.
That looks like a flipper box, by the way.
Yeah. This box itself? Yeah, that's a flipper box. Yeah. So just enjoy it, be careful, and only spend what you can afford to lose always. These are not investments. These are luxury goods that if you are so blessed in this world to be able to afford them, appreciate them for what they are. Doesn't mean you have to not respect buying intelligently.
Yes.
Of course you should.
Yes.
But just be careful and just don't get yourself in trouble.
And be open-minded. Get different stuff.
Be open-minded.
I like that this box is not just full of Rolex.
And look, if you only love Rolex and that's passionately what you love, that's awesome. That's great. But don't just buy it, in my opinion, because you just miss out on so much cool stuff. Like it's just, you know.
Don't listen to what other people say.
Right.
Do
right.
Totally. What you like.
Buy what you like. Yeah, and don't care what. Yeah, don't, like Tim said, don't care what other people say. Like, buy what you enjoy. And in general, you know, most people who hate on stuff, it's because they either don't understand, or they don't want to take the time to research it, and that's okay. So,
all right, hit the upvote button and leave a comment. Subscribe, maybe.
Become a member.
Become a member.
So Tim can keep doing this stuff.
I need to keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning, guys. So
yeah.
We'll see you on the next one. And
see ya. Thanks.
Just shut it.